What happens when you get stressed out? New research shows that stress dulls our senses, causing us to fall back on mindless behavior like old habits, often bad ones, but sometimes good. Dr. Jennifer Hartstein is here to explain how to handle it. Dr. Jen, good morning.
Good morning.
So we all experience stress, but do we all experience it in the same way?
We don't. You know, the fact is there are certain things that happen for all of us. There's certain ways that our brain functions that's the same across the board, but then our behavior is often different, how it comes out. So we have the executive part of our brain in the front that kind of stops working and it goes into our emotional brain, and that's the thing that's true across the board, but what habits, what behaviors we engage in changes for each of us.
When you hear the word habit, often we associate it with bad things, but a habit is really just something that you're very familiar with, and that's what we kind of go back to, whether it's good or bad, right?
Right, absolutely. So we all fall into these patterns. Some people, when they're stressed, make really good choices. They might know that I'm stressed out, I need to go for a run. Other people go into things like overeating, smoking, drinking, kind of those bad things. So we have to be really aware of what our trigger points are and what we do.
Sometimes I do both of those. I overeat and then I go run.
Yes.
Or you're overeating as you're running, I don't know.
But I mean, but it usually feels like we're only doing the harmful stuff when we stress.
Well, that's what we talk about, right? We talk about the bad stuff. Can't believe I did that again, because we get very down on ourselves. We're not going to promote the good stuff we're doing. That's why it's so important to be more mindful of that, because the more aware we are of it, the more we'll do it more often.
I think I'm like you, that I sort of eat mindlessly, and then I think, oh my gosh, I better do something about this problem. Right, and my sort of focused way of dealing with stress is to go out and exercise. Why do you think what does stress do? Does it diminish our willpower, or do we seek control, and so we find something we can handle?
It's such a great question, and something that the research is showing is that it's not that we don't have willpower because we choose not to have willpower. Literally, our brain isn't allowing us to have the willpower. So if that higher level functioning shuts down, pushing us into our emotion center, which is our limbic system, we are just impulsive. Emotions make us impulsive. Although they make sense in a situation, there's no logic in our behavior. So we just act. So the willpower actually just kind of goes away because you need to have something mediating it to say, stop, think, do. And that think part goes away.
But sometimes I'm even conscious of the fact that I'm doing something that's not good for me and I still can't stop.
But not when you first start doing that thing. The fact is you're probably already doing the thing before you go, why am I doing this?
Yes.
So it's catching yourself before you already start the behavior and say, I'm stressed. I need to do something differently. How can I do that instead?
Right. I think that I'm normally not catching myself. It's sort of mindless, and then I'm, oh my gosh, half of those chips are gone. How did that happen? So how do you get a handle on this?
It's really hard, but you know, there are some things that you can start to think about. There's things that we can do in the situation and about the situation, and there's things that we can do for ourselves, and we have to stop and think about what those are. So the first thing we have to do is we have to try and avoid any unnecessary stressors. We can't avoid them all, but some things we can. That toxic person that you keep going back to, maybe you don't need to go to that person all the time. Then you need to literally start to think about how can you alter the situation. Can you change it? Can you adapt to it? And how do you accept it? Because sometimes we have to just accept things as they are, and that's really hard sometimes.
The 4 A's.
The 4 A's. Try and remember them.
Dr. Jen Hartstein, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll try to calm down here.